Hello there, welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. I am playing with a card sketch, so get comfy and let's get crafty. This is the My Favorite Things card sketch number 561, and I'm going to use 1 pad of paper to make 4 cards with different die cuts. So if you've seen any of my other channels, you know that I purchased this paper pad a while ago, and it's got corals and mints and blacks and whites and gold foil, and I love it. So I selected 2 patterns of paper for each card. I will also be using in a couple of cards a white cardstock circle, and then all of the dies will be done in black, will be cut with black paper. So the dimensions of this card sketch that I'm using is there is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card with a 4 by 5 1/4 inch mat. The little rectangle is 2 3/4 by 3 1/4. I have a 2-inch circle that I will be using occasionally, and all of the cards follow the same measurements. On the first card, I'm going to use these Spellbinders palm tree dies. And first, I'm going to adhere the smaller rectangle askew, like it was in the sketch, with double-sided adhesive. And then I'm going to pop up the circle with foam tape because we always need a little bit of dimension. Obviously, I have used one side of this paper before, but hey, cardstock has 2 sides, so we are using the non-dirty side or the non-goof up side. I am placing this circle just kind of where I think it should go, and then I'm going to add the palm trees to the circle. I want them to kind of be bowing away from each other so that the palms will both fit onto the card front. I'm using my reverse tweezers to hold those little things into place because, well, they move around a lot. Like they want to fly away. I don't know. I will adhere the trees down to the circle with some liquid glue, my frenemy in my craft room. Of course, I have a baby wipe standing by to wipe off my fingers and my tweezers because you know if it's liquid adhesive, it's going to get everywhere. Once I have the trees down, I need to add the banner. Now, I did a dumb because in my brain, I was not going to add sentiments to these cards until I needed them. But if I put the banner on, and that's where I want the sentiment to go eventually, how am I going to do that with it already assembled? Yeah, I did a dump. So after I got this banner adhered down and popped up on the left-hand side with foam tape, I'm going to trim off that left side with a pair of scissors, and I'm going to adhere the entire card front to the card base with double-sided adhesive. And this is the time when I realized there is never going to be a good time to stamp a sentiment onto that black banner and have it turn out perfect, right? So I pulled out my Misty and a My Favorite Things sentiment stamp set, and let's see, this one is called, let me see if I can find it on my desk here. It is called More Essential Sentiments, and it has a little bit of everything. I am going to put some anti-static embossing powder on that black banner. I'm going to ink up the sentiment in white pigment ink, and then I'm going to use embossing powder. I'm going to put embossing powder on this card after it has been completely assembled with many different elevations of cardstock. Well, it worked. I got all the excess, or most of at least, the excess white embossing powder off, and I was able to heat set that. And it's not exactly straight, but it works. Card number 2 is going to be a horizontal card. So it will be a landscape style instead of portrait style. All of the card pieces are the same dimension. One thing the card sketch has is some embellishments. I did not add embellishments because on a couple of the cards, I didn't use the white circle. I just had the die cut take place of that circle. And there's already foiling on at least one paper, one of the pattern papers in each of the cards. So I did not add any extra embellishments, which, to be fair, I don't add embellishments to my cards very often anyway, unless I'm doing a shaker card. I don't think, it's just not my style. It's not something that I ever got really hooked on, which that's totally fine. If embellishments are your jam, then by golly, you need to embellish your cards. I have drawers full of buttons from when I was doing Stampin' Up. I have 2 trays full of sequins and all kinds of embellishments, and I use them for shaker cards. I don't really add them to the front of my cards. So it's all good. This card is going to be, the little piece is going to be tilted kind of down toward the left side. And instead of adding the circle, I'm just going to glue the flamingo straight down because the flamingo was bigger than the circle. I think in the sketch, the circle is about 2.5 inches. And my flamingo is a little bigger than that. I'm still going to go ahead and add the banner. First, when I put the feather on, I didn't like it how it was flat. So I pulled it up real quick because that's one of the blessings of liquid glue, liquid adhesive. And I put a little piece of foam tape on the back of it to pop it up, which, you know, in the video doesn't really look like much, but in real life you can see it. There is also some embossing detail on that wing from the die that you can see in real life. So this time I got wise and I put my little strip of paper into my MISTI and grabbed another sentiment from that same stamp set. And I'm going to heat emboss it before I add it to the front of my card. So I'm just doing the same thing. I'll put anti-static powder tool on my banner piece of paper, inking the stamp up with white pigment ink, and then embossing it with white embossing powder. And I think I mentioned this the last time I used white embossing powder. Well, words are hard. That my embossing powder is not melting very evenly, and it's not exactly bright white anymore, but it's also quite old. So I think I need to get online as soon as I'm done uploading this video, while I'm remembering, and order some new embossing powder and then throw that away. I've had it for a long time, and embossing powder is not that expensive as far as craft supplies go. And because it's not really working as well as I want it to do, no harm, no foul. I am going to pop up the entirety of this card panel with foam tape. So this time there is a ton of foam tape on the back of that card panel. And that's just because most of my cards are mailed and I don't want it to get squished weird. Okay, card number 3, we're going back to portrait style card. Again, dimensions are the same. Sorry if I sound weird. I finally got braces. I am 49 and a half years old, and I finally broke down and spent the money for braces, and I got them this week, and it's a learning curve. It is a learning curve. The die cut on this card is another Spellbinders die cut, and it is just some brush, like that would grow alongside of a pond or a lake. Bulrushes maybe is what they're called. I don't know. We call them cattails. I don't know. Anyway, on this card, I'm popping up the smaller rectangle, still going off kitty corner, and I'm going to add a circle, and I'm going to have the circle hanging off of the side of that smaller rectangle. So I'm being careful where I apply my glue. I don't want that hanging off part to accidentally get smashed down and then stick smashed down. I also need to put glue on just about every piece of this die cut that is wide enough to take glue so that it does not get pulled up and ripped off, like if it got stuck to in the envelope flap or something. I love how that turned out. That's kind of low-key one of my favorites. Again, I'm going to white heat set the sentiment on the banner before I add it to my card this time. The sentiments, wow, that was hard. The sentiments that I chose today are kind of generic. I could use them for just about anything. A miss you card, just because card, a birthday card even. And that's okay. I like having cards in my drawer of cards that I don't have to repurpose if I need something that, I have lots of cards that say, hey, and those could be used for anything, birthday, whatever. So I'm adhering the banner down with double-sided adhesive, and I will need to put a piece of foam tape underneath the part of that banner that sticks off the white and black heart paper, because I bumped that up on foam tape, remember? So I'm just cutting a little piece, peeling the backing paper off and adhering that down. And then I'm going to adhere this to my card base, and card number 3 is complete. I find that anytime I'm having a bit of a Mojo problem, card sketches are like my first round of defense, because you can take one card sketch, you can leave it as it has been designed, you can turn it the opposite orientation, you can turn it upside down, you can substitute. For example, this card sketch had that circle, and on a couple of the cards, I used the die set, or the die cut rather, to represent that circle. One thing I was not paying attention to when I was trimming these papers down is the direction of the triangles on that smaller piece. They're kind of pointing to the right instead of up or down, but you know what? They're little. We don't care. I'm going to use double-sided adhesive to adhere that smaller rectangle down to my card mat. I'm going to then stamp my sentiment first, because I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to put this together. If I was going to have the banner go underneath the bike like a road, a bike trail, or if I was going to put the banner across the bike tires. So I'm heat setting the sentiment again. It is another one from that More Essential Sentiments from My Favorite Things. And I am using that same tub of white embossing powder and my heat tool. And they're turning out great. I mean, once I got off of the whole, how am I going to put a sentiment on here later, and just went ahead and assigned them sentiments, which that used to not be such a big thing. But lately I have been making a lot of cards without sentiments on them, so that I can use them for whatever comes up. Like if I just want to send somebody a card, which I do, or when one of my kids needs a card for a friend or for a teacher, then we don't have to go peeling sentiments off and fixing them up. So I'm trying to pick sentiments that are usable for any reason. I did decide to kind of put this banner down as a bike trail. However, it does not go clear over to the whole, the whole right side of the bike tire. And then we are just going to adhere this down with double-sided adhesive. And I think this is the only card I did not use foam tape on. So, wow, but there's tons of foil. Like, I love those gold foil flamingos. They have absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with that bike, and that is okay. And here's a quick look at the 4 cards and a little bit of a zoom in. I was trying to get that foil to show up just a little bit better, and some of the dimension and embossing that the dies left. You can kind of see the little wing on the flamingo there. This still might be one of my favorites because that die is so intricate and it just is so usable in so many different ways. So, 4th card, totally fun way to sit and play and just kind of get your crafty mojo back. Thanks for hanging around. I have a couple of other videos here I think you might like. I've also added that subscribe button. If you haven't yet subscribed, I would love it if you did. Leave me a comment down below, give me a thumbs up, and have a really fabulous day.